Good afternoon and welcome to Rogue's Reads. Rogue is here, ready to do his story. I'm here. I'm Miss Renee. I'm the children's librarian at Salem Public Library in Salem, Ohio. And this is Rogue's Reads, our virtual book club for kindergarten to, from fourth to 8th graders. I get mixed up on which one I'm doing. It's here with all my friends. So you already saw Rogue. Griffin is actually sitting right behind me and Ray's beside me. So we got all of our friends here. It's kind of dark and cloudy out today, so hopefully everybody's home and staying safe and enjoying lots of good books, doing all your schoolwork like you're supposed to. I know it's kind of hard to do when we're all home and everything's so crazy, but you know, keep trying on it. Huge thanks to all the teachers out there who are still putting out all of the great coursework for your students. And just a quick reminder that you can pick, if you're in Salem, you can pick up breakfast and lunch from, I think it's 11 to 12:30. I could be wrong on that, at Salem High School, Monday through Friday. I say this is supposed to be spring break though, so I don't know for sure on that. Make sure you check with the school. But if you need lunch, definitely go pick up some free lunch from them. Rogue actually wants to get involved today. So just see his ears. Here he is. All right, so we are going to catch up with Coke and Pepsi and see what they are up to. All right, do you remember what happened to them? Yeah, they were in the pit with the singing sand dunes, and they knocked the guy down and they climbed out, and then they found Bones and Maya on the edge of the salt flats. So they've had a lot of adventures. Hopefully they're getting closer and closer to the giant ball of twine so they can stop the attack. And we are going to get started here. So we are reading The Genius Files, Mission Unstoppable by Dan Gutman. So big thanks to Dan Gutman and HarperCollins Publishing for allowing us to use this book this way so that I can share it with you. This book is available on Hoopla, so you can get it and read along with me. So much great stuff you can borrow and check out on Hoopla, so definitely check that out. If you don't have a library card and you want to participate, please get a hold of the library. We can still get you hooked up with that, even though you can't come in and get your physical card right now. We can definitely get you a card so that you can join us for online reading or any of our wonderful digital services that we offer. There's a ton of great stuff out there, so definitely get your library card and join us so we can share all of our great resources with you. So let's get started here. We are on chapter 17, An Extremely Large Ball of Twine. I bet you guys can't name 3 things invented in Nebraska, Coke asked the family. No, but I'm sure you can, his sister replied. Kool-Aid, Cliff's Notes, and Eskimo pies, Coke proclaimed. Ugh, Pep groaned. How can you possibly know that? Mrs. McDonald asked. No clue, Coke replied. Stuff just sticks in my head. I can't help it. Mrs. McDonald took secret delight in the fact that Coke seemed to take after her. Maybe, she thought, after she retired from writing Amazing But True, Coke might take it over. They both seemed to have a love for useless information. Dr. McDonald didn't even hear what Coke had said. He was so tired from driving at this point that he could barely stay awake. He decided not to search for a campground to spend the night. He pulled off I-80 at the first exit, headed for the first pair of golden arches he could find, and parked in the corner of the McDonald's lot. He figured it was probably illegal to leave an RV overnight at a fast food restaurant, but he did it anyway. It's smarter to pay for a parking ticket than to fall asleep behind the wheel at 70 miles an hour. I agree. The sleep did everyone good, and there was no ticket on the windshield in the morning. As a way of saying thank you, it was Egg McMuffins for everybody. Mrs. McDonald took out her laptop and plotted the route to Cocker City, Kansas, home of the largest ball of twine in the world. It would be almost 6 hours of straight driving, she figured. When breakfast was done and the RV was gassed up, they were back on I-80. Have any of you guys ever heard of Carhenge? Mrs. McDonald asked, looking in her Nebraska guidebook. It's a replica of Stonehenge, but with cars, Coke said, recalling a magazine article he'd seen while he and his mom were getting an oil change at Jiffy Lube. Some guy half-buried a bunch of old cars on his farm and welded them together to look like Stonehenge in England. How do you remember stuff like that? Pep asked, incredulous. It's not that I remember so much, Coke replied. It's that you remember so little. Where is this Carhenge? Dr. McDonald asked. 2 hours north and east of here, Mrs. McDonald replied, in Alliance, Nebraska. Dr. McDonald thought it over. They could stay on course and make it to the largest ball of twine in the world by late afternoon, or they could drive 2 hours out of their way to see a bunch of cars stuck in the dirt. It was a tough decision. Tell you what, he said, next summer, we'll go to England and I'll take you to the real Stonehenge. Deal, everyone agreed. They continued along I-80, passing the small towns of Big Springs, Roscoe, and Paxton. They stopped for lunch in North Platte, home of the Fort Cody Trading Post, one of the largest souvenir shops in America. Standing outside was a gigantic buffalo bill, and inside there was a two-headed calf in a display case and a giant fiberglass buffalo. Anyone who can drive by that without stopping for a look has no sense of adventure. Yeah, I'd perhaps stop for that one too. It would be another 213 miles to Cawker City, but they were getting close now. Dr. McDonald pushed the gas pedal a little harder. The vast grasslands and treeless plains passing by made it seem as if the RV was moving in slow motion. Near Elm Creek, Nebraska, Dr. McDonald pulled off the highway to head south on Route 183. Something tells me we're in Kansas, Coke said suddenly. What tells you? Asked Pep. That tells me. Then everybody saw the sign in the distance that read, Welcome to Kansas. Hooting, hollering, and cheering erupted from the RV as they crossed the state line. Did you know that the state song of Kansas is Home on the Range? Coke announced. Big deal, Pep replied. Ball of twine, here we come. The road was more narrow and gentler. Dr. McDonald eased off the gas to slow down and take in the scenery. They were in the country now, passing farms and churches, houses, and ball fields. This is the real America, Dr. McDonald said, glancing from side to side as he drove. The America you don't see on TV. Everyone was anxious to get to Cawker City, but they couldn't help but enjoy the view. It was so different from their home near San Francisco. Rolling hills, endless fields of corn and wheat pastures, grazing cows, every few miles another small town. Phillipsburg, Kensington, Smith Center, Lebanon. I'm going to stop right there and say, sounds an awful lot like Columbiana County, Ohio. Stop, Ben, Mrs. McDonald suddenly yelled. Dr. McDonald mashed on the brake, thinking he must have hit an animal or something. The RV screeched to a halt, and at the side of the road there was a small chapel, a picnic table, and this. Welcome to Lebanon. Nearby was a stone marker announcing that this exact spot was the geographic middle of the continental United States, as determined by a government survey done around 1898. They all got out of the RV to stretch their legs and check things out. An old man rode by on a wobbly bicycle. Excuse me, Mrs. McDonald asked the man, is this really the geographic center of the United States? Yep, the man said without stopping. But that doesn't include Alaska and Hawaii, does it? Asked Coke. Nope. Does it account for the curvature of the earth? Asked Dr. McDonald. Don't rightly know, the man replied, and he continued pedaling on his way. Think of it, Mrs. McDonald said, snapping a photo of the marker. We are standing at the exact midpoint of the continental United States. Great, Coke said. Let's blow this pop stand. So they did. Standing at the exact geographic center of the United States was, admittedly, interesting. But it was hard to get excited about it when they were so close to the largest ball of twine in the world. When they got back on the road and saw a sign that said Cawker City 25 miles, they could almost taste it. The McDonalds had driven about 1,600 miles by this point. They had traveled more than halfway across the country, and finally, they were within shouting distance of Cawker City. This had better be worth it, Dr. McDonald mumbled as they passed some cows grazing at the side of the road. It wasn't long before they could see a water tower in the distance, and soon the words on it could be read, Cawker City. The cornfields gave way to a cute little town. It was neighborhoody, a barber shop here, a luncheonette there, and then the big sign. Welcome to Cawker City, home of the world's largest ball of twine. Woohoo, Coke hollered. We made it! As they drove along Wisconsin Street into the downtown area, they all leaned forward in their seats, each hoping to be the first to see the ball of twine. Shouldn't be hard to spot, they figured. Anything that is the largest of its kind in the world shouldn't be hard to spot. Dr. McDonald found a parking space big enough for the RV, so he grabbed it. They could walk the rest of the way. Be careful, Pep warned her brother as they climbed out of the RV. Something's going to go down here. It's our job to stop it. She took the backpack just in case she had to hit somebody with a yo-yo or gouge their eyes out with her Pez dispenser. Ooh. The people of Cawker City aren't ashamed of living in the home of the largest ball of twine in the world. Just the opposite. They're proud of it. The sidewalks are painted with twine so visitors can take the masterpiece Twine Walk to see paintings in storefront windows that have images of twine hidden in them. Kids compete to find them all. Suddenly, almost without noticing, they came to a simple pavilion on the south side of the street. And there it was, nearly 9 tons of twine rolled into a 40-foot ball. You have to see it to believe it. So that's one of our activities today. We're going to go on the website and see this giant ball of twine. The McDonald's just stopped and stared open-mouthed. Wow, marveled Mrs. McDonald. It's so big, Coke said. It's amazing, said Pep. Even Dr. McDonald was impressed. That's an extremely large ball of twine, he said. Mrs. McDonald got to work, snapping photos, taking notes, and interviewing tourists and locals for Amazing But True. Why is there a giant twine ball in Cawker City, Kansas? Excellent question. It turns out that in 1953, a farmer named Frank Stober started to roll spare pieces of twine in his barn. He never threw any away or reused it. He just kept rolling it into a ball, and the ball got bigger. After a few years, the ball was 8 feet tall and weighed 2.5 tons. By 1961, the year Stober donated the ball to Cawker City, it was 11 feet tall. Stober passed away in 1974, but the people of Cawker City kept right on rolling twine, and the ball kept growing. In fact, every August they have a twine-a-thon where anyone can pitch in and help. Today, the ball has almost 1,500 miles of twine on it. That's a lot of twine. That's almost as far as we drove from home, Pep marveled. They should make Frank Stober's story into a movie, Coke said, putting on his movie preview voice. In a world of isolation and despair, one dreamer from the heartland turned his twisted obsession into a tacky tourist destination, and in the process bound his small hometown together and put it on the map. How did he do it? With twine. Pretty inspiring, huh? Coke asked. Pep punched him and pulled him aside so she could talk without their parents hearing. Get serious, she told him. Do you even remember why we're here? There's going to be some kind of attack, and we got to stop it. The twins looked all around nervously. Every person in the immediate area was a suspect, but they were particularly on the lookout for odd-looking characters, guys in golf carts wearing bowler hats, evil health teachers, or anyone else who appeared to be out of the ordinary. So far, nothing. Just a bunch of normal-looking locals and tourists. The twins were on the lookout for Bones and Maya, too, but they were nowhere to be seen. Mrs. McDonald went in the little shop across the street and came out with, what else? 2 balls of twine. Your birthday is in 3 days, she said, handing one to each of them. This is an early present. Gee, thanks, Mom, Coke said with fake enthusiasm. Just what I always wanted. He stuffed the balls of twine in his backpack with the deck of cards, frisbee, Pez dispenser, yo-yo, and assorted junk he had accumulated. Okay, Dr. McDonald said, clapping his hands. This was great, but we should get on the road and start heading for Washington. The wedding, you remember. No, the twins protested. We want to stay longer. Why? Dr. McDonald asked. It's a giant ball of twine. You saw it. Pep couldn't tell her dad about the imminent attack. She looked at her brother. We just want to take in the enormity of it, Dad, Coke explained. I mean, this thing's humongous. We'll probably never be here again. It's not every day you get to see the largest ball of twine in the world, right? And at that moment, a bicycle pulled up next to them. The rider was the old man they had seen earlier at the Geographic Center of the United States. He rolled to a stop. Pretty big, eh? He said, gesturing toward the ball of twine. Oh, yeah, Coke said. Biggest in the world. Maybe, the old man said. I beg your pardon? Asked Mrs. McDonald. Ain't necessarily the biggest, the old man said. What? Asked Mrs. McDonald, perking up her ears. Are you suggesting there's a larger ball of twine somewhere? Could be. Where? Mrs. McDonald demanded, almost desperately. You've seen a bigger one? In Minnesota, the old-timer said. A little town called Darwin. Never seen it myself. Some folks say it's bigger. Some folks say this one's bigger. You gotta be kidding me, Coke explained. Pep suddenly realized why there was no attack in Cawker City. She knew why Bones and Maya hadn't shown up. It was the other ball of twine that they were supposed to go to. Let's go, she said. We gotta get to Minnesota. Yeah, let's go, Coke exclaimed. Are you guys crazy? Dr. McDonald shouted. Minnesota's probably 7 hours north of here. here. We have to get to Washington by July 4th for Aunt Judy's wedding. I'm sure that the other ball of twine looks just like this one, Bridge. I'm not driving. Ben, Mrs. McDonald said, her hand on his shoulder. I must see the other ball of twine. That was all she had to say. The three of them had to physically drag him back to the RV. Oh, so I guess they're headed to Minnesota to find the other biggest ball of twine. Put my water there. Okay. Chapter 18. Spam, 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 spam. Ugh. Any of you guys eat spam? I don't like spam. I think it's pretty gross. But a lot of people do like it. They wouldn't make it if nobody ate it, I guess. As they headed north on Route 81, Dr. McDonald was fuming. He was so angry he couldn't speak. He did not want to go see another ball of twine. In cartoons, animators typically have smoke pouring out of characters' ears to signal they're really mad. There might as well have been smoke pouring out of Dr. McDonald's ears, but he was a devoted husband and father too. Sometimes it seemed as though he loved his family even more than he loved himself. And if his family wanted him to drive hours out of his way to Minnesota to see another, we got a lot of punctuation, ball of twine, he decided then, another large group of punctuation, we're not going to say what it stands for, he would drive them there. That's the kind of man he was. Please excuse the language. This is just what was going through Dr. McDonald's mind. He was so angry, in fact, that he had forgotten the contents of the RV's holding tank had not been emptied since the family left California. It was nearly filled to the top now. Ugh. It crossed Coke's mind a few times that he should do a dump, but he never did anything about it. The thought of dropping 4 days' worth of human waste through a tube into a hole in the ground was not Coke's idea of a fun morning. He figured that when the time came that they really needed to do a dump, his father would let him know. But Dr. McDonald wasn't talking. He didn't say a word to anybody for 3 hours. The sun was getting low in the sky, so as soon as he saw an RV camping sign outside of Lincoln, Nebraska, he pulled off the highway. And after a good night's sleep, at least some of his anger had subsided. Driving up through Minnesota could be fun, he thought. He tried to convince himself as they got back on I-80 toward Omaha. He'd never been to Minnesota, he reasoned. It's always good to try new things. Minnesota is supposed to be beautiful in the summer, he said silently. Spontaneity makes for the best vacation memories, he decided. It might even be fun to see another giant ball of twine, he thought. But deep down inside, he didn't believe a word of it. It's 440 miles from Omaha, Nebraska to Darwin, Minnesota. 7 hours, 25 minutes of driving if you don't stop. That's a lot of driving. The RV was filled with tension. As they passed Omaha and crossed over into Iowa, Coke didn't even announce any useless information about the state. Mrs. McDonald pulled out an Iowa guidebook and began to leaf through it. You know, there's a 45-ton concrete bull in Audubon, she said quietly. It's the largest bull in the world. We should go see it. It's not that far out of the way. Its name is Albert. No, Coke and Pep shouted from the back. We want to get to the other ball of twine. There's a 10-foot ear of corn in Coon Rapids, Mrs. McDonald announced a few minutes later, and it rotates. No, the kids barked. We want to see the other ball of twine. How about the Buddy Holly Monument in Clear Lake, Mrs. McDonald suggested gently. Buddy Holly sang Peggy Sue, It's So Easy, Rave On. And in the front seat, the grown-ups broke into an off-key version of That'll Be the Day. No, yelled the kids. We want to see the other ball of twine. How about the Hobo Museum, Mrs. McDonald persisted. It says here that while many people think of hobos as drunks and criminals, the Hobo Museum celebrates them as dignified men who prefer a relaxed lifestyle on the road without the pressures of owning homes and acquiring material possessions. I think I would like the life of a hobo, Dr. McDonald said. No schedules or deadlines, no mortgage or phone bills, no office. You can dress the way you want, go where you want, sleep when you want, and you get to see the world. Maybe I should become a hobo. How would we put the kids through college, dear? Asked Mrs. McDonald. Who needs college? He replied. The kids could become hobos too. No, came shouts from the back seat. Ball of twine. Mrs. McDonald continued to leaf through the guidebook, but stopped suggesting interesting places to stop. Dr. McDonald pulled off of I-80 East at Des Moines and merged onto Interstate 35, which goes north-south and cuts Iowa almost perfectly in half. It seemed as though they had been driving forever. Heading north, it was another 2 hours before they crossed the state line. Welcome to Minnesota. There was no cheering from the back seat, no announcements about the land of 10,000 lakes. The kids just wanted to get to the ball of twine in Darwin, which was another 3 hours away. Hit the brakes! Mrs. McDonald suddenly shouted as they approached the exit for Interstate 90. Dr. McDonald veered off to the shoulder of the road and screeched to a halt. What is it? He said. What's wrong? The Spam Museum, Mrs. McDonald announced. I must go to the Spam Museum. What? Dr. McDonald shouted. You're kidding me. There's a museum devoted to spam? No, the kids shouted. Ball of twine. The Spam Museum is less than a half an hour from here, Mrs. McDonald said calmly. Take this exit, Ben. We really have to get to the ball of twine, Mom, Coke argued. No, we really have to get to the Spam Museum, his mother replied sternly. And Dr. McDonald pulled off at the exit. Yes, it's true. Austin, Minnesota is the headquarters of Hormel, the company that makes Spam. Probably never occurred to you, reader, that there would be a museum devoted to a gooey, spiced luncheon meat. But before opening this book, you'd probably never heard of the National Yo-Yo Museum or the Burlingame Museum of Pez Memorabilia either. It's a big country. There's a lot of strange stuff in it. The Spam Museum is across the street from Hormel's meat plant. Yes, they have an entire building devoted to Spam. Reluctantly, the kids got out of the RV and followed their mother inside. They were surprised that the admission was free. Of course it's free, Dr. McDonald told them. The whole place is one big commercial for Spam. They should pay us to come here. Dr. McDonald told the family he had traumatic childhood memories of Spam. His mother had forced him to eat it. He and his brother had called it mystery meat. The McDonalds were assigned to a tour group, and a tall, cheerful woman with a name tag that said Julie introduced herself as their Spambassador. Oh, that's bad. Welcome to the Spam Museum, she said. How many of you enjoy Spam? Some of the hands went up. Julie told the group that 7 billion cans of Spam had been sold since it was introduced in 1937. The tour included just about everything you always wanted to know about Spam, but were afraid to ask. I had no idea that lunch meat had such a fascinating history, Dr. McDonald said sarcastically as they entered the World War II exhibit. Oh, yes, Julie the Spambassador said. In fact, during the World War, 100 million pounds of Spam were sent to Allied soldiers. Did they eat it, Coke asked, or use it for ammunition? They should have dropped 100 million pounds of Spam on Hitler, Dr. McDonald said, or they should have forced the Nazis to eat Spam. They would have surrendered a lot sooner. The McDonald's found it impossible to think about Spam without giggling. When the tour was over, Mrs. McDonald went to the gift shop. She picked up recipes for Spam burgers and tried to decide whether she should buy a Spam hat, necktie, flip-flops, or glow-in-the-dark Spam boxer shorts for her husband. In the end, she decided to keep it simple. She bought a can of Spam. In case of emergency, they could eat it. It didn't even have to be refrigerated. Coke and Pep wandered around the gift shop with their mom, snickering at all the Spam-related products. A man with a mustache, dressed like an old-time policeman, was sitting by the door taking a snooze, and he had a billy club in his hand. Check it out, Coke whispered, nudging his sister. They have a guard in the Spam Museum. Do they actually think somebody would want to steal Spam? I don't think he's a real guard, Pep said. He's a character, like a Disneyland. Spam was invented in the 1930s, Mrs. McDonald pointed out. I guess he's supposed to be a 1930s cop. The mustachioed guard woke up with a snort. Say, he said, would you kids like to try your hand at canning Spam? No thanks, Pep replied. We really need to get back on the road. Come on, kids, Mrs. McDonald said. It will be fun. Sure, they'd love to can some Spam. Follow me, the guard said. He led Coke and Pep out the side door of the Spam Museum and across the parking lot to the Hormel meat plant. The factory was closed for the day, but the smell of Spam still hung in the air. This guard gives me the creeps, Pep whispered to her brother. The twins followed the mustachioed guard into a huge room filled with canning equipment. All the workers had gone home. In the middle of the room was a giant vat about the size of a water tower. It was filled almost to the brim with liquefied Spam, of course. This is where we can the Spam, the guard said. I figured that, Coke said. It's a lot of Spam, Pep said. 100,000 gallons, the guard said. Want to take a closer look? There was a narrow metal bridge that went about 10 feet over to the top of the mat. We can see just fine from here, Pep replied. Don't you want to can a little Spam, the guard asked. Bring it back home as a souvenir? I'd really like to, Coke replied, but I need to get back, and poke my eyes with hot needles. I'd really like to. Oh, you should really take a closer look. The guard had pulled his billy club out of its holster and was wrapping it against the palm of his left hand. Uh-oh. He had a familiar smile on his face. You're not a real guard, are you? Pep asked. No, I'm not. And with that, the guard reached behind one of the machines and put on a bowler hat. It's the bowler dude! Coke shouted, run! Not so fast, the bowler dude said. He grabbed both of them from behind and jammed the billy club hard against their necks. That wasn't very nice what you did to my brother, he said, pulling them toward the giant vat of Spam. Your brother? Pep asked, trying to get the club away from her windpipe. Who's your brother? The guy to Sand Mountain? Coke asked. You guys two are brothers? My brother has a nasty bump on the back of his head thanks to you kids, the bowler dude said, tightening his grip on the club. Your brother threw us in a pit up there, Coke said, struggling to break free. He was going to leave us there to die, and you were the guys who were chasing us to the edge of the cliff in golf carts. You've been trying to kill us. It's too bad we failed earlier, the bowler dude said, breathing heavily on their necks, because now I'll have to do it myself. What are you going to do to us? Pep whimpered. She was crying now. Spam, 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 spam. The bowler dude started singing the song made famous in the old Monty Python's Flying Circus TV show. He had an evil smile on his face. No! Pep shouted. Get in the vat, the bowler dude instructed. It's disgusting, Pep shouted. I said, get in, the bowler dude insisted. And don't try anything funny like you did with my brother. Hit him, Coke, Pep yelled. You know, karate. Kick him. Do something. But Coke was powerless. When he was taught how to punch and kick in karate, his opponents just stood there and held up soft pads to absorb the blows. They never fought back. This guy had a billy club pressed against his throat. If he tried any of the karate moves he had learned, his windpipe would be crushed in a second. Pep, on the other hand, had no reservations. She'd never taken a self-defense course, but she knew there was one spot on the body where every male is vulnerable to a good swift kick. The bowler dude had her from behind, but she bent her knee quickly and rammed her foot backward into his groin. Ugh! The bowler dude groaned. Pep wasn't finished. Summoning up a previously unused source of fury, she started kicking, punching, and spitting in the bowler dude's face. He tried to hit her with the club, but he was in so much pain that he fell backward, pulling Coke and Pep with him. The three of them toppled over, and the next thing any of them knew, they had fallen into the vat of Spam. Pep still wasn't finished. She scooped up a handful of the stuff and slapped it against the bowler dude's eyes, blinding him, at least temporarily. Then she pushed his head down with both of her hands until it was below the surface of the liquefied Spam. Coke could only watch, shocked, as he grabbed the edge of the vat to prevent himself from slipping below the surface himself. He'd never seen his sister show aggression before. That's enough, he yelled at her. You'll kill him. He tried to kill us, Pep yelled back as she held the bowler dude's head under. It's self-defense. Let's just get out of here, Coke said. He pulled himself up and out of the vat, then reached down a hand to help his sister up onto the metal walkway. The bowler dude's head was still covered by the Spam. It wasn't clear if he was dead or alive. Do you think he'll be ground up and put in cans of Spam? Pep asked as he ran out of the room. Who would know, Coke replied. They ran across the parking lot, trying their best to wipe off as much Spam as possible, but it was useless. They were covered from head to toe. Gross. Where did you learn how to do all that self-defense stuff? Coke asked Pep just before they reached the RV. Something just came over me, she replied. I was fighting for my life. Their parents must have heard them approaching because they rushed out of the RV to greet the twins, stopping short of any hugs. Where were you two? Mrs. McDonald said. Is that Spam? What happened? Dr. McDonald said. I had no idea that canning Spam was so messy. You have no idea, Dad, Coke said. Let's get out of here. By the time the twins changed their clothes and the family got on the road, it was already dark. They were still almost 3 hours from Darwin. Everybody was exhausted, and the twins tried to forget what had happened in the canning room. Mrs. McDonald looked in the guidebook and found a campground near Owatonna off Interstate 35 North along the way to Minneapolis, not too far. They hadn't made it all the way to the Darwin ball of twine, but they were close. It would be 2.5-hour drive in the morning. You really should do a dump, Dr. McDonald told Coke as they pulled off into their campsite. Can I do it in the morning, Dad? He asked. It's really late. Okay, but let's use the regular bathroom here, Dr. McDonald instructed the family. Our holding tank is probably full. Coke gathered his toiletry bag and found the nearest bathroom, a little outhouse not far from their RV. He opened the door, looked in the mirror, and saw this written on it in lipstick. We've got another cipher, I think. Long string of numbers. I'll type them out in the comments. At first, he thought it was just a bunch of random numbers or a prank played by some kids. But then he realized it was something else. It was another cipher. "Oh, you gotta be kidding me," he said out loud. Quickly, he memorized the order of the numbers and then smudged the mirror to obliterate the message. And that is where we are going to stop today because we ran really long. Those were long chapters, but I thought they were kind of fun chapters. So activities for today, we're going to look up the ball of twine online. I'll find a website for that. We're going to look up some spam stuff. And I'll also post the cipher so you guys can try to decipher what the new code is. This one's numbers, and I'm definitely not good with numbers, so I don't think I'll figure this one out. But hopefully, Pepsi's pretty good with this kind of stuff, so hopefully she can figure out the cipher, and we'll find out more about that tomorrow. So, signing up for now. We will see you guys tomorrow. Keep reading. Rogue is still sitting right here with me, so he's been enjoying the story as well. Yeah, though he might be rooting for the bad guys. His name is Rogue. All right, we will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks. Bye. Oh, I can't reach the phone.